Hello, guys. It's a beautiful Sunday, March 15th, 2026. Happy Ides of March. I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. Welcome. I have a YouTube channel called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or you can go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star to access I think it's getting close to 320 podcast clips I have there. A few of them are actual videos of me talking, which you can see in a short playlist I have there if you're interested. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe and get notified, and why not join my channel? It's pretty fun. I like to begin all of my clips with the 3 opening prayers, which are very short. They're in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra, and I do this to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. Before I do that, I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us and all of our human beloveds and all of our animal beloveds. Cast out the spirit of pain. Cast out the spirit of fear, please, Yeshua. Cast out all demonics and all demonic attachments. Cast out all satanics and all satanic attachments. Cast out all negativity in thought, word, and deed, including memories. Cast out negative karmas. Cast out ill health. Cast out mental illness, confusion, fogginess, negative delusions and illusions, lack of clarity. Cast out self-rejection, self-dislike, self-hatred, or the projection of that onto anyone or anything else, as well as the reception of that from anyone or anything else. Thank you so much, Yeshua. Please send your healing presence now. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Thank you, Yeshua. We receive your healing presence, your blessings, and your divine protection. Amen. Svaha. I also command on the beautiful sacred presence of the Divine Mother aspect called Mother Mary, and she is for all, as is Yeshua. They are for all, everything in creation. It's not about religion. It's far beyond religion. Mother Mary, please be with us in this eternal moment ever more fully and completely, to comfort us, soothe us, uplift us, shower your love and blessings and teachings upon us, as well as guide us with your true mother's fiercely loving heart with necessary boundaries and necessary discipline, like any good mother would for her children. Thank you so much, Yeshua. Thank you so much, Mother Mary. Amen. Svaha. And now to the prayers. Om, 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Suklam Bharataram Vishnum, Sishivarnam Chatubhujam, Prasanavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignupashante. Om Bhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wonderful. Okay, I am going to call this, what am I going to call this clip? Have I decided? I haven't decided, so it will be a surprise. Okay, but what I'm going to do, even though I should probably read this more towards the center of this podcast, but President Trump put out this on Truth Social a couple days ago, and he was really not exactly trolling, but just I guess it was trolling. He was trolling the IRCG, the Ayatollah forces. So let me just read what he put on Truth Social. He said, we are totally destroying the terrorist regime of Iran, militarily, economically, and otherwise. Yes, if you read the failing New York Times, you would incorrectly think that we are not winning. Iran's navy is gone. Their air force is no longer. Missiles, drones, and everything else are being decimated. And their leaders have been wiped from the face of the earth. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, and plenty of time. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They've been unaliving, Killing, innocent people all over the world for 47 years. And now I, as the 47th President of the United States of America, am Killing them. What a great honor it is to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And he put Donald J. Trump all in caps. So I want to read from the great Promethean Action. I'll be reading first Susan Kokinda and then Barbara Boyd. It's just so good. So let me see. And we know that there are, I think it's about 2,500 Marines and about the same equivalent 2,500 sailors that have been sent out to the Middle East. There was a Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. He approved CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command's request for an amphibious ready group and attached Marine unit to head out to the Middle East. So 2 ships from Japan-based USS Tripoli, which is an amphibious ready group, as well as the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit headed out. They are going out there. And the USS Tripoli has a F-35 B-jump jet fighters. So they are heading out. They started heading out a couple days ago. So let me get to Promethean Action, what I want to share with you guys. Lloyd's of London blinked. Just days after suspending shipping insurance for oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, they reversed themselves and announced that they want to work with the United States to keep ships and oil moving. Most people think they know why. President Trump had called their bluff and announced that he would keep the strait open. And then they cut to President Trump on camera, and he's saying, "I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply. And if Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level." In the meantime, during this brief disruption, the United States is offering political risk insurance to any tankers operating in the Gulf. And then Susan Kokinda says, that's some of it, but not all of it. He also called Russia's President Putin, and he lifted some sanctions on Russian oil in a move that the globalists called self-defeating. But that's still not the whole story. The real reason is that the world is going through a fundamental remake thanks to Donald Trump. The president now describes Britain as a former ally, and an even bigger scandal has erupted about the British, about the money ties between London and Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. And take a note, listener, I've been saying this for several days, but now it seems like it's generally confirmed even by mainstream media that from day one, from the day that his father, the Ayatollah Khamenei, was hit, his son, Mojtaba, was also hit along with his wife, his mother, his son, and they all were unalived, and Mojtaba lost a leg and was struck unconscious and was in a coma and was put on a ventilator in a hospital there in Iran, where a lot of the whatever's left of the leadership, they hold their meetings in the hospitals because they know that the U.S. and Israel don't hit hospitals, so they feel safe in there doing their things. And finally, some pictures came out, I think just yesterday, of Mojtaba, on the ventilator, and he's in bad shape, if not already deceased. So an Iranian, obviously, who speaks Persian, said that Mojtaba, that name, means mouse in Persian, and that when the Ayatollah, his father, Ayatollah Khamenei, was alive, he spoke very disparagingly of this son of his, of Mojtaba, and he was making it very clear that he doesn't believe in hereditary, passing of the evil, satanic, demonic Ayatollah leadership to sons. So he did not want it to go to Mojtaba. So, excuse me while I take a sip of my iced coffee, which is delicious. Anyway, and Mujtaba never knew that he was, lauded as the new Ayatollah of that satanic regime. And it was so necessary for the remainders of the leadership in the IRCG. They brought in that ridiculous cardboard cutout of Mujtaba and we're kissing it and stuff to they needed a cardboard cutout. Even though I guess based on even what his own father thought of his leadership potential, Mujtaba would be ruling like a cardboard cutout. Anyway, I say God bless all souls, because even the souls that are super shrouded in darkness, or they even need more prayers and blessings to get them to recover and to go back to the path to the real Mother, Father, God, not a satanic one. Okay, so anyway, so Susan's saying, she's talking about Mujtaba, and she says, globalist think tanks, globalist think tanks and press will continue to insist that Donald Trump is stumbling into another forever war, that he's unleashing economic chaos and courting midterm disaster. I'm Susan Kakinda, and for decades I've exposed how the modern British Empire lurked in the shadows, keeping the world in turmoil with wars, economic control, and terrorism. Now, thanks to Donald Trump, it's out in the open. Today, I'm going to look at three things. First, what Trump did to force Lloyds of London to blink. Second, the money ties between Iran's new supreme leader, Mujtaba, or I guess the listener, the money ties when he was still walking around, but anyway, and London. And third, how John Bolton, Mark Carney, and other globalists are out in the cold along with London. So, the U.S. engagement with Iran is not exactly playing out as the globalists expected. And she goes into Chapter 2, Lloyds blinked, Trump's three-front strike on the insurance weapon. The cancellation of war risk insurance by the empire's oldest insurance company was supposed to bring shipping to a halt, spike oil prices, and shatter economies. Operation Epic Fury was supposed to be economically and politically disastrous for President Trump and backfire against him. But the president was ready. He moved on three fronts simultaneously, and Lloyds never recovered. First, he announced that the Development Finance Corporation would step in with political risk insurance. Lloyds had pulled coverage. Washington replaced it within days. Second, he announced the Navy was on notice to protect shipping in the Strait as needed. And third, and this is the move that tells you everything about how differently this president thinks, Trump lifted some sanctions on Russian oil. Not only that, he got on the phone with President Putin to discuss the conflict in Iran. So let's put this all in context. Last week, Donald Trump branded Britain as our former closest ally, the same Great Britain which has led the charge to sanction Russia and keep the Ukraine war going, and the same country which is home to Lloyds of London, which just tried to strangle world oil supply. So instead, Trump turns to Russia to get oil moving and chats up Putin for an hour. But now here's something else you didn't see coming, especially if you've been imbibing the Israel runs Trump Kool-Aid. Yesterday, which happened to be actually listeners on March 10th, Axios carried this headline scoop. U.S. asks Israel to halt strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. Axios reporter Barak Ravid reported 3 reasons protecting Gulf energy stability, avoiding price spikes, and preserving Iran's oil sector for post-war cooperation. This is the same approach that President Trump used with Venezuela. Trump isn't protecting the regime. He's planning for what comes after it. And it doesn't conform to Israel's objectives. So, think about what that means. Israel doesn't have a blank check. The Gulf states are being protected. Iranian oil is being preserved for the Iranian people after the regime falls. This is not a neocon war plan. This is a president managing the end game while the bombs are still falling. Now here's another page from the neocon playbook being put into the shredder. the page about how Trump's Iran moves are aimed at China. Here's President Trump on camera, and he's saying, "We're in a very good position, but very unfair to other parts of the world, like China as an example. I mean, we're doing this for the other parts of the world, including countries like China. They get a lot of their oil through the Straits. So we're doing this. We have a very good relationship with President Xi in China. I'm going there in a short period of time, and we're protecting the world from what these lunatics are trying to do, and very successfully." Susan, so line it all up. Trump called Lloyd's bluff and called Britain our former ally. Then he eases sanctions in Russian oil, and calls Putin. And he says he's doing it for China and the rest of the world. No wonder heads are exploding in think tanks in London and Washington. This is the real story, not the missile strikes, nor the carrier movements, or the panic market headlines, but the strategic landscape being remade in real time. Because the empire isn't just being outflanked, it's being exposed. And part of that exposure is the financial ties between the mullahs and London. Back in January, Bloomberg dropped a 27-word article, and she goes into chapter 3, called "Iran's Supreme Leader Banks in London, the Money Trail Exposed." So Bloomberg dropped a 27-word article, which just sort of sat there like an unexploded bomb until now. When you look at the title, you'll know why. How, and excuse me for a moment, listener, how the sun... I lost my place in my other thing here. Hold on one moment. So Bloomberg, I'm going to say talk amongst yourselves for a minute, because I just had a continuation of this, which I just lost the place. Okay. Almost there. Okay. So Bloomberg's 27 word article and I still don't have it. I can't believe this. Okay. Tra-la-la. Okay, am I going to have to restart this all over again? Maybe, because I really cannot find the rest of this. Okay. I mean, this is... Okay, finally. Jeepers, that's never happened before. But I had this big continuation in another place, and I just lost the place. Okay, so Susan Kakinda was talking about the Bloomberg's 27-word article, and it was titled, she said, look at the title, and it was titled, "How the Son of Iran's Supreme Leader Built a Global Property Empire." Now that Son of Iran's Supreme Leader is Mojtaba Khamenei, which we know it's not really the case. I'm saying that, not Susan Kakinda, who was just elected as the new Supreme Leader several days ago. And the global property empire, well, it's concentrated in London. Bloomberg tracked the financial holdings of Mojtaba Khamenei, or Khamenei. The front companies managing their family wealth aren't registered in Tehran. They're registered in the Isle of Man and St. Kitts. The Isle of Man and St. Kitts aren't random offshore jurisdictions. They are nodes of the City of London's offshore banking network. The same City of London that just tried to spike oil prices against an American president at war. So let's call it what it was. The Iranian Revolution wasn't a revolution. It was a management arrangement. The mullahs raged against the West in public, and in private, the family money went to London. Now, listener, I want to interrupt here to say, even though I've talked about it umpteen times on my YouTube channel, on my Controller series, on the Real Wheel series, off the cuff on many other podcasts, but the city of London is referred to the old Roman walled city, 1 square mile financial district, a city-state with its own mayor, its own governance, its own laws inside of London, as we know it when you say London. So you have to know that. This is talking about the 1 mile financial square, the satanic, which was really the key for the satanic financial control all over the earth realm. And it was linked up, as I've described so many times before, with the triangle that the satanic elites and their minions had put together with Vatican City, which is a city-state. It was never part of Rome, never part of Italy. It had its own governance, its own laws, different from Rome, and it was the satanic point of the Satanism, of the religion for the earth realm. And Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, which is not part of Maryland and not part of America. It was a foreign invasion on American soil, was used to further, in a satanic way, the British Empire's, empire growing and empire building and all kinds of things. So that triangle has now been smashed. So let me go back to this reading. So I just want to be clear, when you keep hearing about London, it's not just the city, it's the whole London, it's that financial district. Okay. So when she says the Iranian revolution wasn't a revolution, it was a management arrangement. The mullahs raged against the West in public, and in private, the family money went to London. And this isn't the first time. Go back a few decades to the infamous Al-Yamama deal with Saudi Arabia, the largest arms deal in British history connected to the royal family, an arms deal that provided off-the-books money, flows that could be traced to 9/11 participants. And a quick footnote, the first foreign visit that Donald Trump took in his first term was to Saudi Arabia to tell them to stop financing Islamic terrorism. He knew then, he knows now. And you can bet that Trump's team, especially Scott Bessent, can read a Bloomberg article. So the Al-Yamama deal was version 1. The common property empire in London is another version. Britain has been financing Islamic fundamentalism for decades. The chaos in the Middle East, with Iran as the crown jewel, that was part of the business model, and London managed it for 47 years, until this week. And this week, Trump made sure that the world could see it. So the insurance checkpoints are being replaced. The Khamenei money trail leads to London. And she goes into chapter 4 called Bolton's Process versus Hegseth's Generation, who's actually in the room. She said, Trump is remaking the strategic landscape. What's the establishment's response? John Bolton is giving interviews that reflect a certain state of mind. And listener, I have to interrupt again to say this is not John Bolton 1.0. This is not the original John Bolton. It hasn't been for several years. This is a face mask. This is a white hat wearing a Hollywood-type hyperskin face mask with voice box technology, as so many are. This is not the actual criminal, treasonous John Bolton. So let me go back to this. Susan says, John Bolton, and she shows John Bolton on camera, and the John Bolton 2.0 face mask is saying, well, I've said from time to time, the only question is, who gets me first? The Iranians or Trump? And then Susan says, now Bolton's actual complaint is that Trump doesn't play by the rules which have kept presidents in check. And then she goes back to the Bolton face mask interview, which says, and he's supposedly saying, it's not at all clear to me that Trump he doesn't do grand strategy. He doesn't even do policy the way we normally understand it. So I'm not sure exactly what his thought process is, because we know the normal National Security Council process is all but non-existent in the second term. And then Susan says, did you catch what Bolton is actually defending? a national security process, the one that produced 20 years in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, the one that managed the Iranian threat for 47 years without ever resolving it, because resolving it wasn't the point. Now here's someone else who's out in the cold. The central banker's prime minister, Canada's Mark Carney, the man the globalists have assigned to try to rescue some kind of rules-based order. She goes to an on-camera interview of Carney. We were not consulted before it began. We're not engaged in the conflict. We do not intend to engage. What we are doing, what we are engaged, is dealing with the consequences of the conflict. Consequences that continue to spread. And then Susan said, that's the special relationship in 2026. The City of London's chief spokesman standing outside the fence waiting to see how it ends. Now, there are still way too many voices in Trump's own base right now saying he's been captured, that Bolton got his war, that the globalists won, that this is Iraq all over again. But look at who's actually complaining. Bolton can't get his national security process. Carney can't get in the room. The people who ran the old system are on the outside looking in, and they're furious. That's not what a neocon takeover looks like. Now listen to who is in the room. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, on camera. He's saying, you know, as someone who led soldiers in the streets of Baghdad and Samarra, Iraq, and who trained counterinsurgents in Kabul, Afghanistan, and who carries the weight of brothers lost to Iranian terrorist proxies, this fight, Operation Epic Fury, it hits home. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under the types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president. And then Susan says, in that interview before, Bolton had called Iraq a military success. Yes, listener, the white hat wearing the face mask is doing a pretty good job of exposing what a pile of ish Bolton was. Yep, treasonous-ish. Okay, so then Susan's saying, Hegseth, on the other hand, carries the weight of the brothers it cost. That's the difference between the old vision and the new one, between the men who managed the imperial order and the men who got paid for it. A generation that went to Baghdad and came home knowing exactly what the old system cost, and a president who finally asked them to finish the job. That's what the global elite are looking at from the outside. That's why Lloyd's of London had to blink, because for the first time in a very long time, an American president is conducting an American foreign policy, not an imperial one. And the success of that policy depends on you. President Trump needs people who understand what he is doing to defeat the real enemy. And then Barbara Boyd of Promethean Action is from another section. She's saying, here's what the City of London doesn't want you to know about its business model. It's not just oil. The Guardian reported that nearly 40% of all dirty money globally is laundered through London and its crown dependents, the Caymans, Jersey, the British Virgin Islands. 4 out of $10 of criminal money on Earth flows through that square mile and its satellites. That's not a side business. That's a core revenue stream. The drug trade, the arms trade, criminal finance of every kind. And Trump is going after all of that simultaneously. Lloyd's of London, the city's insurance arm, pulled war risk coverage from Persian Gulf shipping within hours of the conflict beginning. When Lloyd's won't insure your tanker doesn't sail. That's not the market reacting to war. That's the city engineering a price spike on command. And watch what happens when Trump moves against one of their nodes, Chatham House. The city's public foreign policy arm immediately declared the Iran-Iraq operation illegal. They said the exact same thing about Venezuela. Every time Trump moves against a node in the city's network, Chatham House suddenly discovers international law. They're not making a legal argument. They're running a protection racket for their interests. And London's own real estate trade press published pieces this week salivating over Gulf sovereign wealth funds fleeing the conflict zone and parking higher capital in London property. The city didn't just engineer the oil price hike. It is positioning itself to profit from the disruption it created. That is the business model. Yep. So, guys, excuse me again for that long lapse when I lost my place between things that I wanted to read. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Anyway, though, I really appreciate you. I think this was pretty interesting. What do you think? Why not leave your comments or emojis? What do you think about it? Keep it respectful. You don't have to agree with me or with what I read, but I'm interested. I'd like to read your comments and see your emojis, how you're expressing yourself. I like to close all of my clips with a very short closing prayer in Sanskrit and Telugu. And what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you. Enjoy your Ides of March. God bless. Bye-bye for now.